They're through these meetings, which we haven't been able to have, certainly we need, but also to take care of our citizens, you know, and I will always maintain that we fall back to the essential services, our police, fire, and EMS. That's what government was formed around, and then the other things come after that. And so if we can't take care of these basic core services, how are we taking care of the rest? So maybe a difference in philosophy of board members. That's where I come from, and we've been now talking about it. You know, Mr. Wagonette was sitting here this morning, and he and I worked on it 3.5 years ago. We're still not any closer. So I'm just looking forward to that final adoption, final discussions to get to an adoption, et cetera, of a plan.
And I think that is an outstanding board referral for our office. I think what we need to do is we need to respond back to the board and give you a timeline for when we anticipate we could tackle those problems. And again, it will be a joint project between HHSA agency and our office, and we'll commit to giving you a timeline when I think those activities will happen. As far as the second part of your question relating to the 25,000, we've had many presentations to the General Government Committee. I think I'm doing a project now on rural broadband, and it's become very very important as I go through and work with those various people that everyone is interested in more information. And we've handicapped people sometimes by the way we present the information. And if anything, I think we need to be more aggressive about getting that information out to the public in a clear and concise way that they can access, because one of the problems that we have throughout this county is whether or not you're challenged by whether you have dial-up or whether you have a telephone phone line or whether you have a high-speed line. I think this project has the long-range potential for making it easier for us to push information out to the public. It is done more in a text file format. Obviously, the more graphics you have in the presentations that you do, that eats up space, and it limits people from getting access to our information. So I would encourage you to, this is a GSA project. We won't spend the money unless we think it's feasible. And I'll defer other comments to the two supervisors on the General Government Committee.
Supervisor.
Well, first of all, you know, it comes down, budgeting is all about priorities. Over in Covelo, the ambulance runs on an average over one call a day from out of the valley to the hospital, one call a day, all done by volunteers. You know, when you have a heart attack over in Covelo, you don't worry about if you have dial-up or internet or any of that. They don't even have cell phone service in most parts of Covelo. But a ambulance is damned important. On a daily basis, it's damned important. So, as I said earlier, my recommendation would be to move that $25,000 into the for the ambulances. It's, you know, it's not here. We talked about 2 years ago of pressing the state for a legislative fix. I guess that's totally ignored, and maybe now we're talking about trying to solve it internally. This is an issue that our state legislature needs to be dealt with, and if CSAC and RCRC and our state legislative advocates aren't pressing that issue, I don't think they're doing their job, because that was our top priority, if you remember. Now we've kind of let it drop back to, now the discussion is, well, we need to come up with a fix locally. I don't think that's possible. This needs state attention to this. But in the meantime, we got to keep our ambulance running. That is, if that isn't a priority, if the health, you know, when you need an ambulance, you don't need it. You can't wait. And we got to keep the ambulance. We have volunteers out there running these ambulance services. All they need is a little bit of gas, and they're willing to hop in it and get up at 2 in the morning and take a trip from Covelo or wherever, from mine or any place to the hospital in Willits. But, you know, all they're asking for is a few gallons of gas and help. If you spread $25,000 or whatever the Health and Human Services Agency can add to that or something, that's great. But I think it's, you know, it comes down to priorities. And, you know, we have our stuff on the website, and always, I guess, more is better, but it comes down to priorities. So what I recommend, we move that $25,000 directly into saving our ambulances.
Okay. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you. On that note about the state needing to address the issue, I think we've had a number of conversations where we certainly have concluded that, and more recently, I've had 3 conversations with Senator Wiggins' chief of staff, and they are very seriously looking at it. It's too late for this actual legislative year to get anything in, but they are very seriously looking at what they could do, and I think it would be broader than Mendocino, but for rural counties in general, this is a huge problem. So I think they are really seriously looking at it. They're speaking with the Ledge Council there, and they're really taking a look at what they could bring forward that would help at the state level. So I think we need to do both of these. I think we need to do it here as proactively as we can. As Supervisor Wattenberger said, this is something that we've got to get the long-range fix, and we have to address the 172 issues internally with the county. I mean, there's so many things that need to happen, and I think we have to work on all of the fronts to get this going in the next couple of years. It's sort of like the Teeter plan. It's going to have to take concerted effort over time to really get the resolution, and probably one single thing is not going to fix it. With respect to the list on this follow-up list of concerns questions for the afternoon session, in the board's reading file on the request from the Mendocino RCD, there's a pretty detailed coverage in their